There are two completely different types of fears, and almost no one can tell them apart. That single confusion has cost more aligned people more time than almost any other mistake that I've seen. Think about the last time that something felt right and scary at the same time. That business deal that made sense on paper. That YouTube channel that you always wanted to launch but never got around to. That boundary in your life that you know you needed to set. That next level that you could clearly see but you didn't move forward. You see, you didn't back away because you lacked clarity. You backed away because you misread the signal. Your fear was telling you something, but you didn't have the tool to decode which something. So your nervous system made the decision for you. Every personal development teacher will tell you and teach you one of two things. Draw an arrow here, draw an arrow here. They're either going to tell you to feel the fear and do it anyways. So let's write do it anyways. Okay, so you're feeling the fear and you're doing it regardless of how you feel, or they're going to tell you to trust your alignment and that if it feels off, then it's probably not worth doing or not the right move. So you're trusting the signal. And here's the interesting thing about this, is that both of these are actually correct. They're both right. The thing is that neither of these tell you what's the right move, what's the right decision for right now. Nobody teaches you that fear is not a single message because it carries two completely different meanings, and that your nervous system cannot tell the difference between either of them. Your nervous system is not an alignment detector. It's a detector that's looking for always what is familiar, which means that every time that you're stepping into something new, even if something is deeply aligned, your nervous system will fire off with fear, and not because the direction is wrong. It's because the direction is unfamiliar. You see, most people never learn to read the differences between trusting the signal and doing it anyways. But watching this video today, and as we progress and as we go through this, you're going to learn exactly how. And I've worked with a lot of different entrepreneurs, founders, creators who are super aware and they know their inner values, their morals. They know the direction they're going and they've done the inner work, and they still keep stopping themselves at the exact moment that aligned action becomes available. And when I mapped this pattern every single time, it wasn't because they were misaligned. The problem was precision. They didn't have the tool to decode which fear was there. So they defaulted to the safer interpretation. They called it discernment, patience. But what they were actually doing was training their internal operating system to treat expansion as danger. The fear system that I'm going to walk you through today is the diagnostic tool that I built from this pattern. It's the exact tool that I use and many other entrepreneurs, business owners, creators, and founders that I work with to decode the signal before the nervous system decides for them. Here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to walk through the different types of fear. Type number one, which is the misalignment fear. And then type two, this is the expansion fear, where you feel it and you know that it doesn't feel good, but you do it anyways, right? You're fearful. This is where courage comes into play. You see, with type one, this is the signal that genuinely says that this direction is wrong. You can feel it in your body, right? You can feel it through your nervous system in terms of it just doesn't feel good. Now, type two, I mentioned courage, and this is where you know that something is above and beyond your current identity and you take the action anyways, where you're expanding your identity in terms of who you are, right? You already feel and naturally, organically feel in terms of the nervous system. It's out of whack. It's feeling that like, I don't know if I should do this. What if this, what if that? You feel it in your body, but you do it anyways because you know it's on the other side to where you actually want to be, where you're expanding your horizons, your identity, the version of you. And then we're going to walk through the fear system. So this is a complete system here, and this is an acronym. And this is a proprietary system framework that I put together to help you decode and decipher which type of fear that you're actually experiencing, so you can make the right decision every time. And I want to make this real for you. So I want to walk through an archetype that I call the aware observer. This is someone who is deeply self-aware, highly reflective, and is able to name every single pattern in the internal world. And this is someone who has been reading expansion fear as misalignment fear for many years. Now, here's what I want you to think about. If it scares you and it makes sense, then it's probably aligned. You see, the question isn't whether to feel the fear or not. The question is whether you can read it. Now, I want to show you how this works through the example of the aware observer. So this person has done the work. They can name their wounds. They can identify their patterns, explain their fears, and essentially articulate everything that's going on in their internal world. But because they're so self-aware, they often mistake expansion fear for misalignment. So instead of moving forward, they keep interpreting the discomfort of growth as a sign that something is wrong. Throughout this video, we're going to map out the pattern and the shift in real time. You'll be able to recognize exactly where it's been running in your own life. So the aware observer, they often have a pattern that they cannot break. Every time they reach a threshold or a moment for them to take a step that's going to move them into the next identity or the next version of themselves, they feel the fear and they immediately stop. And the interesting thing about it is that they are really thinking about it very deeply. They're able to sit with the decision, to feel it, and they keep feeling the fear, and it's telling them that something is wrong. So they listen to the fear. This other business that they wanted to start, they walked away from it. The boundary in their relationship that they know and knew that they needed to set, they talked themselves out of it. And every time it was the same sequence. The aligned direction appeared and the fear arrived, and they interpreted it as a sign to stop. And this is the most confusing part about this. You see, they weren't wrong about how they were feeling. They were telling themselves that this doesn't feel aligned, because if it was, then I wouldn't be feeling this way. And yeah, you know what? That logic is sound. It makes sense why they wouldn't move. But here's the thing. This is the most common diagnostic error that I've seen with people who are genuinely committed to wanting to become a better version of themselves. They have a business or a vision for their life, but they stop when it's actually time to take action and to move. And one of the things that I often hear from them is that I don't know if I stopped because it's misaligned or because I'm scared. You see, they can't tell the difference because they feel exactly the same. And that's the problem. They have never been given a precise enough tool to distinguish between two types of fears that on the surface feel nearly identical. And once you understand the difference between the two signals of fear, you stop treating expansion as a warning. Let me show you what exactly those two signals are. So let's draw a line here. Down the bottom, we'll put misalignment fear. And then expansion. Two types of fear, the same feeling in the body occurs, but it's a completely different source and completely different meaning. So let's go over both. So with misalignment fear, this feels heavy. It feels draining. It feels confusing. It feels forced. And then resistant. You see, this is a fear that arrives when something is genuinely off, when the direction doesn't match who you are, when it's built from external pressure, someone else's definition of success, a version of yourself that belongs to the previous chapter. The quality of the feeling is very specific. It feels heavy like a weight, not necessarily tension, and it feels draining, where the more that you sit with it, the more depleted that you feel. And it feels confusing in a particular way. Not the confusion of the unfamiliar, but the confusion of something that doesn't quite fit. And underneath it all, a very strong sense of resistance because it's genuinely the wrong move. When you actually and truly feel this, the fear is correct. Backing away is the right move. The signal is accurate because the direction doesn't match the identity. Okay, so let's go to fear number 2 here, which is the expansion fear. This feels like sharpness, activating. This is where you feel excited, plus scary simultaneously. It's almost like butterflies. You remember when you have have had butterflies and you're looking to make a decision, or you're looking to let's say, go up and talk to somebody, and you feel those butterflies, you feel the nervousness, you feel scared, but you feel excited. That's really what we're talking about here. And then clear, but uncomfortable. And then lastly here, you feel alive. And I want to capitalize this because remember, anytime that you are expanding, there's always going to be a sense of fear and a sense of feeling scared and scary and whoa, I don't know what's going to happen here. But it's always going to be where on the other side of that, you are expanding and you're going to feel more alive overall because it's something that you know that you want internally, and it's a matter of you just taking action on it. You see, this fear always arrives when something is genuinely aligned and genuinely beyond who you've been. The quality of these feelings are completely different, but it requires precision to notice the difference. It's sharp, but not heavy. It's activating and not draining. There's a simultaneous quality of excitement and discomfort, and they're both fully present, the excitement and the discomfort, and neither is canceling each other out. And then there's the clarity that's underneath the discomfort. It's a knowing that this direction is true, even though every surface signal in the body is saying danger. You see, that's the confusion. This is exactly where the diagnostic error happens. Now here's the mechanism on why expansion fear feels threatening, even though the direction is completely aligned. So let's go right here, new identity. Nervous system safety. Put yet. So the biggest thing here is that your nervous system is always going to feel fear and feel that something is misaligned because your old identity is your current situation, right? Your current reality, and it's always going to go with what's familiar. So if something that you're trying to do is expansive and out of the box, let's put a little box right here. If it's out of this box and you're trying to go into a bigger box, okay, more expansive box, more room, more things, your nervous system is going to freak out because it's out of the norm. Your nervous system is always going to detect and look for what's familiar. It's not going to look for what's aligned, like what makes sense for you in terms of you wanting to reach a next level of growth, a new version of yourself. No matter what, your nervous system is always going to fire off when you're taking steps that are outside of your comfort zone. And so this means that when you're stepping into something that is genuinely aligned and it's something new, your nervous system cannot tell the difference if it's the right thing for you or not, because it's always looking for what's familiar. Have I been here before? Yes. Okay. Let's feel good. Let's feel normal. But if it's not, if it's something that is right out of the ordinary, then you're going to feel that feeling of fear, and the nervous system isn't going to understand that it's growth, that it's expansive. It's just doing its job. Think about it this way. So somebody who has never had experience swimming in open water, but they're a really strong swimmer in the pool. Their technique is solid. Their body's capable. They've, swam a bunch of different laps with ease. They're essentially really good at swimming, but have only been doing this inside of a pool. And so now when they decide to go into the ocean, into the water, their nervous system freaks out because it's unfamiliar. It's not within the confinements of a pool. It's just massive water. And so it responds as unfamiliar, and then it signals that this is a threat. And you see, the swimmer isn't in danger, and the nervous system doesn't know that yet. That's your expansion fear. You see, alignment doesn't remove fear. It changes what fear means. And this is where the decision trap closes. You feel expansion fear and you interpret it as misalignment. And so you avoid the direction and you stay the same. And you don't stay stuck here because you're lacking clarity. You stay stuck here because you're misreading the signal. So how do you tell the difference between misalignment fear and expansion fear in that moment where you're right in the middle of a decision and you're feeling that fear, but you don't really know which direction it's pulling you towards? So the way that you're able to tell them apart in real time when you're facing a very tough decision is by asking yourself 3 questions. So number 1, does this move me forward? Okay. Number 2, does this feel true even if uncomfortable? Number 3, would avoiding this keep me the same? These are powerful, powerful questions that are going to help you decipher whether something is misalignment fear or expansion fear. And more often than not, you're going to go through these questions and you're going to realize that all of this is moving you towards expansion. Because listen, I get it. It's difficult and challenging and very emotionally draining to make decisions and take action that are going to make us grow and get us to that next version of ourselves. But it's the right thing to do, and it's what is necessary in order for us to move to that next level. Okay, so now I want to walk through the fear system. This is the signal decoding system that allows you to move through this and easily decipher whether something is misaligned or expansive in terms of fear. So let's go ahead and walk through that. Let me go ahead and erase the board. Okay, so this is the fear system. The signal decoding system. So this has 4 steps. So the F, this is where we want to feel the fear without reacting. And then the E, evaluate the source. And then the A is you want to ask, misalignment or expansion? And then the R, respond from identity, not emotion. So these are 4 steps, and each one builds off the previous one. And so this is a framework that doesn't eliminate fear. It transforms your relationship to it so you can move from the right place regardless of what the nervous system is doing. Okay, so let's go to the first one. Step number 1. You want to feel the fear without reacting. You see, the first instinct that most people have when fear arrives is one of 2 responses. The first is that they suppress the feeling. They push the feeling down and they override it with logic or willpower, and they force the decision through the fear as if it's not there. And the second one is they obey the fear. They let it just sit there and simmer, and they don't do anything about it. They feel it and they interpret it as a warning, and they leave and exit that fear, that experience, that feeling before they've been able to understand and decipher what the signal is really saying. You see, both responses skip the most critical step, which is receiving the fear as information before deciding what to do with it. Because here's the thing, fear that is suppressed cannot be decoded, and fear that is immediately obeyed cannot be decoded as well. The signal can only be read when you are in relationship with it and you're present with it, where you're not consumed by it or escaping from it. The feel step is the act of allowing the fear to be here and to be fully present with it, without it immediately becoming a decision. You need to be able to sit with that feeling and feel that fear, acknowledge it, respect it. Hey, I understand what you're doing here, right? Have a conversation with it. I respect that you are here trying to protect me. I understand you. You're just doing what you do naturally. You're supposed to raise the alarm. And so it's about really being fully present, aware, and acknowledging that fear without taking any immediate action, but zooming out. Now, think about it this way. Imagine a smoke detector that goes off on a building. The two wrong responses in this case is one, you're ignoring it because it's inconvenient, or two, you're immediately evacuating the building without actually verifying that there's smoke in the building at all. And you see, both of these skip the middle source, which is fully understanding and acknowledging what is the source. Like, where did it come from? And for the aware observer archetype, before they become aware of this fear framework, or they become aware of what to do in terms of whether something is aligned or expansive, these types of people are always going to rationalize the fear and figure out that, hey, you know what? This doesn't feel good, so it has to naturally not be an aligned move. And they're not leaving room to actually feel the emotion, acknowledge it, and be able to receive that signal and make that decision and ask those questions, whether this is misaligned because it's not moving me in my direction that I want to go, in terms of expansion, in terms of getting to the next version of me, or growth, opportunity, whatever that may be. So the expansion never took precedent because they were just trying to rationalize, hey, it didn't feel good. The nervous system was just doing what it does naturally, protecting them, making them feel a certain way. And so they miss out on so many opportunities. Okay, so let's go to number 2. This is the E. You want to evaluate the source, because once you've received the fear without reacting, the next step is locating where exactly it's coming from, because fear doesn't arrive from a single source, and the source determines everything about the meaning. And there's 4 possible sources, and each one produces a different quality of fear, and each one requires a different response. So there's 4 sources. So number 1, past experiences, external pressure, and this external pressure here is really just others judgment. Okay. Number 3 is genuine misalignment. This is where the direction doesn't match the identity. And then number 4, expansion. This is where the direction exceeds the current identity's familiarity. Okay? So past experiences, external pressure, genuine misalignment, and expansion, where the direction exceeds the current identity's familiarity. You see, sources 1 and 2, the past experiences and the external pressure, they produce fear that belongs to a story that you've inherited and not a signal about the current decision. They're real fears, but they're not reliable data for the choice in front of you. In source 3, the genuine misalignment, this is the type 1 fear. The signal is accurate and the direction is wrong. In source 4, the expansion is type 2. The signal feels identical to misalignment, but comes from a completely different place. It's the gap between who you are and who this decision is asking you to become. This step 2, where you evaluate, requires one precise question. Is this fear coming from present reality? Let's go right here. Is this fear coming from present reality or from an OS operating system built for a previous one? You see, if the fear is sourced from the past, a previous experience of failure, a previous context where this type of decision went wrong, you see, it's not telling you what the situation is. It's telling you what a previous situation was. Because past source fear is real. It's just not relevant to the current decision. Okay, so let's go to step number 3. You want to ask whether this is a misalignment fear or expansion fear. This is where we're really going to figure out and determine what this signal truly is here in terms of whether it's one or the other and why. And so after the first couple steps here where you're feeling and then you're evaluating, you essentially have two things. You have the raw emotion of the fear and you have a read of where it's coming from. In this step here where you ask, this is where you make the determination explicit, not from impulse, not from the instinct to protect yourself. It's from deliberate discernment. So the question here is this telling me this direction is wrong, or that this direction is bigger than who I've been? Powerful, powerful, powerful question here. Is this telling me this direction is wrong, or that this direction is bigger than who I've been? And more often than not, it's going to be, it's bigger than who you've actually been, because unless you're like experiencing real fear where someone's like trying to attack you, or like something very physical or true fear, okay, that something is misaligned and that you know intuitively it's wrong, it's off, it's always going to be where something is on the other side of growth, and you know for the most part intuitively that it's scary, it's uncomfortable, but you need to take that action, because if you don't, you're going to stay where you are and there's not going to be any growth. But I think oftentimes we try to fight with this and convince ourselves that it just doesn't feel right. You know, the stars are not aligned. It's not a full moon today. And I don't have this, I don't have that. I'm not prepared for this over here. And so we rationalize and convince ourselves why often we don't take action. And we say that it's just misaligned. It's just, doesn't feel right. But it's really us avoiding action that we know is bigger than who we currently are. And here's a very important part of all of this, that if you are consistently and constantly saying that your feelings of fear are misaligned and you're not taking action, you're essentially training yourself to not move and to not take action, even though you know something is going to move you into expansion. And so that decision of not taking action and moving, when you rationalize that it's misaligned action, then you're essentially compounding that. And so now, every time that you want to take action, when you see it as growth, it's going to be that much more difficult. Okay, so let's go to the last one here. So this is respond from identity, not emotion. And every single step up to this point has been about receiving the signal, locating its source, and determining its meaning. Step 4 is where most people, even after going through the first 3 steps correctly, this is where they're making the final and biggest error, because they're responding from emotion rather than from identity. And here's the difference. So let's go down here. When you are responding from emotion, you're telling yourself, I feel scared, so I should be careful. However, when you're responding from, let's go down here, identity, this is where you're saying this is aligned. So I move regardless of how I feel. Powerful. This is so powerful. So when you're experiencing and feeling and reading everything through the emotion, okay, responding from this emotion over here of fear, you're feeling it. So you should be careful. However, when you respond from identity, which is the root code, right, the root source, this is aligned. So I move regardless of how I feel, because I know that this action is going to move me in the direction that I want to go and is expansive for me to be able to grow and achieve my desired reality, my outcomes that I want, whatever that may be. Because when you're responding from emotion, the nervous system's current state determines the decision. And the nervous system, as we have talked about previously, cannot distinguish between expansion and danger, which means a nervous system-based decision in the presence of expansion fear will consistently produce avoidance. Responding from identity means that the decision is made from your values, your direction, your alignment, with the full acknowledgement of fear and without needing it to disappear first. And this is super important here, because responding from identity doesn't mean that the fear is gone before you act. It means that you act in the presence of fear, from a deeper layer than the one the fear is running on. Fear is just the signal, not a command. The command comes from the identity. Think about it this way. So imagine a plane that is flying through turbulence. The turbulence is intense, disorientating, and uncomfortable, and the pilot maintains control because the instrument panel is providing a different layer of information. The turbulence is the emotion. The instrument panel is the identity. You don't navigate by turbulence. You navigate by instruments. The response step is choosing your instrument panel, your identity, your alignment, and your values as the navigation system, and letting the turbulence be present without letting it become the pilot. This is the complete fear framework that allows you to understand what you're really feeling in terms of misalignment fear or expansion fear, and your ability to make the right choice every time, so that you're training yourself and your nervous system to always take action that you know is going to get you to your next destination, to the next version of you, to that next growth level that you know you want to be at, but it still feels a little bit scary and you move anyways. So feel the emotion without reacting. Evaluate the source and ask whether this is misaligned or expansive. And always respond from identity, not emotion.